back in the Greymouth area of South Highland, New Zealand, and I was in this area about 3 weeks ago, scouting it. There's a really nice beach here with some sea stacks, and it's now low tide, so I'm back again because before it wasn't low tide. It didn't coincide with the sunset. There might be a sunset tonight, I'm not sure, but I'm going to give it a try again now. So to get to this beach, you either need to take about a 1.5 kilometer hike along shoreline, rocky shoreline, or you take this really sketchy path that starts right here. And as you can see, it's a bit muddy right now. Before, when I took this path, it was dry, a little safer, but I'm not sure about it now. It's got some pretty steep inclines and cliffs, and now it's muddy. So I'm gonna have a look, and if it's too sketchy, I'll turn back. I decided to record this descent all the way from the road down to the beach on this path because it's in many ways quite interesting and also rather treacherous in places. It's not exactly a maintained path, and it's overgrown in many places and not marked at all. The DOC, Department of Conservation, wasn't exactly forthcoming with how to find this place, so I had to do all the research myself to figure out how to get there. You might even say they were actively discouraging people from going here. So for those reasons, I'm not going to say exactly where this is. However, those photographers in the know will know exactly where this is, and you can probably figure it out for yourself. That's half the fun of finding these places in photography, doing the research and then going there. This beach has tons of sea stacks and underwater rock formations that are exposed at low tide, and lots of excellent composition options here that are great for photography. There's parts of this path where you can hang on to a rope because it is quite treacherous and right on the edge of what was a landslide. As you get to the bottom of this path, you end up finding out that it doesn't really connect with the beach because the bottom of it is washed out by high tides. At this point, I was questioning whether it was wise to even go down, not knowing if you can get back up and with the tide rising and no other escape route. But as usual, going down it looks more difficult than it is when you're going back up, so it wasn't any problem at all. So I'm going to shut up now and just let you see what I saw when I was scouting around this beach. thought I would have this place to myself.
I heard the other day, but the tide was higher. So
Yeah, I came here like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The tide was too high.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Or the end of November, I think I came.
Yeah.
Or third week of November.
There's so many shots you can get here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Where are you from?
Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Man, this beach was absolutely packed. There was even another photographer there. Shock and horror. But I did manage to find a spot to set up away from the crowds. I pretty much scouted this beach all over again because it's completely different now with the tide being so much lower. I mean, it was kind of low when I came here before, but now it's way out. And I didn't see this rock formation kind of stuff that's all over here. Didn't see that before. I think it was partly buried in sand before. So this is pretty interesting. It's not the composition I thought I was going to go for. I thought I was going for the sea stack over there, the one that looks like a head with the crazy hair on top. I might still do that, but it needs some sun coming on it from the side, and it's not going to happen right now. I think the sun's maybe not quite at the right angle, but this is interesting. And there's a few places that look just like this. So I'm going to hit this one, I'm going to go to the other one, and maybe hit that sea stack at the end. Starting to get an amazing sky here now. You can check that out. Well, I've been running up and down this beach, got all sweaty. So I'm trying to get as many compositions as I can, but it's probably not the best idea. Probably should have stuck with right here in the first place. And I almost have this place all to myself. I see one other photographer way down the beach. I don't know if I've seen rock formations quite like this before. It's made up of what looks like river rocks that have been cemented together. Pretty interesting though. Well, my first big mistake was not bringing bug spray. I'm just getting swarmed right now with sandflies. The sun's definitely come out hard, and it's actually a little bit too much right now, I think. I'm shooting right into it. I might have to recompose, but I have been trying to there's a big gouge in the rock formation here that I'm trying to make a leading line out of. Not sure if I'm being successful at this point. Well, I've now resorted to scrambling around the beach for the last of the light, just to get whatever I can find. I just happened to get a little closer to the little tide pool there, a little reflection in the wet sand, and obviously the sea stacks in the background. Just a little bit of light left in the sky. Well, that last shot didn't really turn out that great, partly because I was rushing it. And I got one other shot that I'm not really presenting here because it wasn't really worthwhile. So really it's just that one shot that you've already seen that's worthwhile, and let's take a closer look at it. I'm gonna be my own worst critic on this one. While there are parts of it that I do really like, I think it's not my best work. The two sea stacks are a little bit noisy, and the composition I think is a little bit on the weak side. Now you could argue that the two sea stacks are aligned on the rule of thirds, and you could say that there's a leading line here, although you'd have to search for it. The leading line, if you could call it that, is a little bit scrambled. Compositionally, I think it's a bit heavy on the right side with this large big bulk here, and a little bit empty on the left side. Ironically, I think it would have been a stronger composition if this one sea stack wasn't even there. I did consider cropping in on this picture, especially on the left side, and I did even think about removing this sea stack completely, which would have balanced out the picture a little more, with this heavy bulk being offset by a main subject on the top left. But I ended up not doing that because it wouldn't have been honest to what was actually there, and also because of lack of suitable content to patch over that sea stack. and because I didn't think that the picture was worth quite that much effort. Now, what I do really like about this picture is the contrasts in color. You might argue that the white balance in this picture is a little bit too blue, but I think it works, especially when you've got a contrasting color in the background. I personally rather like a pretty cool white balance on images like this. By contrast, it's actually not very blue at all when you compare it to this image that I took several years ago in Scotland. On both of these images, I just happen to have the white balance on the camera set to auto, and this is just how the camera happened to see it. This particular image, there has been no color adjustment at all. It's actually quite shocking how different the color of tungsten is compared to regular daylight in the blue hour. After that, looking back at this image, it doesn't seem very blue at all. I did try to play up the contrast a little bit between the blue of the ambient light and the warmth of the sunset by adding a little bit of this color into the highlights of the rocks in the foreground. Here's the before edit, looking pretty dull, and after the edit. I'm sure you will have seen about 10 great shots in the video as I was scouting around this beach. I would have liked to have been able to clone myself and be in about 5 different places at once. As it was, I was already in 2 different places, running back and forth, these 2 places about 100 meters apart, which wasn't the most effective, and I probably should have just stayed in one place. When you have to time the sunset with the low tide, that really limits your possibilities. And to do this place properly, you really need to have 3 or 4 days in a row where you can actually take advantage of all the many different shots that this place has to offer. Unfortunately, I had a plane to catch in a few days, and this was during the pandemic when there was very limited flights, and I'd booked my flight on points, and so if I didn't take the flight when I was originally planned, I would have been several months before I could get out. The challenge was to find one good composition that would work well given the circumstances, and I'm not sure that I picked the best spot. There was definitely other compositions that would have been better, like some of these other sea stacks that were quite fantastic, although they all had some other aspect about them that I wasn't quite happy with at the time. In hindsight, I would have liked to have had a crack at this stream that was right at the beginning. I think it would have turned out quite well with the sun going down in a pretty good position, and I liked how the stream was cutting a little path through the sand. I'm going to give this photo about a 4 out of 10, so kind of average, but definitely a worthwhile scouting trip to know what to expect the next time I go there, and this is definitely a place I'll want to go to again.